Hi, this is Michelle Mardelli, youth worker.
And François Alarodet, family counselor.
And you're listening to Bagot Talk.
Today at Bagot Talk, our guest is Miss Krysta Letto, psychoeducator.
Join us on this discussion where we're talking about how to support your child through an emotional storm. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much, Miss Krysta Letto, to be at Bagot Talk with us today, this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure. We're so lucky that, people that makes podcasts on their own, not at work. It's a struggle sometimes to get good guests and professionals so we can go deep down lots of things, but we do it with work. So we're getting paid and we can have awesome guests on the show.
Like you.
Thank you.
So we wanted to talk just so families understand who you are, what you do. We know that you're a psychoeducator. What does a psychoeducator do in general? What's your role?
So I no longer use the professional title of psychoeducator, but it's very similar. So my functions did not change.
Okay.
I was a psychoeducator for a few years, many years, from 2013 to 2021.
Okay.
And essentially, at that point, I worked within the school systems, and I also had private practice. So basically what I've done is I helped big people. So whether it was the teachers, the staff within a school, or also the parents with who I work, I helped them make sense of their child from the inside out. So often, parents or again educators, teachers are confronted with certain difficulties behavior-wise, and they wonder what's going on and how could we help our children to grow, basically, and how could we help our children within the different settings that they're in. And so my role was basically really to accompany the adults and the children to help set up an environment that will help them grow and thrive. So I do have my bachelor's and my master's in psychoeducation. Today I call myself a little bit maybe a parent educator or consultant. I work at Cœur, so it's my company right now, and again with the mission to just help big people really understand what's happening inside the children, in order to really offer them what they need to keep growing and to protect also their emotional health, because that's probably the biggest component right now in what we can see. There's different struggles right now in society, and it comes back to emotional health. So so that's how I would define my role, my mission.
And that's why we have you here on the show, and as a bonus, you said that you work in the school system and you work with military families, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I had the privilege to work at DDO, so de l'Ordre des Ormeaux in Shannon, right beside a military base. So I was, for a few years, the psychoeducator at that school. So again, it was just a rich experience where I got to kind of sink into the certain realities and certain, also a lot of, I think this is what I've told you last time we've chatted a bit, but just to see the community bond or tips and all of the feeling of belonging. There's so much beautiful things that I've gained through my experience there, for sure.
And it makes double sense in here in Bagotville, because it's such a tiny English community in such a big French world in here, Bagotville.
So families are really tied together. But one thing that's also super interesting is that from your background, we know that we are offering services for military families, but military families to their core are still just normal families that go through normal things, that go through normal challenges with the children, with the tantrums sometimes, or just, as you said, understanding what's inside the child. So I know how to react and how to not get too overwhelmed by it and understand it more. I think that's what's fun with you, is that we're going to go deep into that. Nonetheless, we do keep in mind the military background, but it's fun to go back to that core of understanding of we're just normal families going through normal life.
Yes, everyone's human beings with the same needs, the same, emotional world as well. The difference is certainly then different experiences that we can live and encounter, depending on who we are, can sometimes exasperate certain emotions and stuff. But humans are humans, and everyone has reality and context that could come sometimes and explain what we can see from the outside. Yeah.
which leads us back to our goal was to exactly, as you said, address how to understand the emotion of your children and how to be able to go with them through them. I think one of the struggles as a parent is I want to fix it for them. I want to do it for them. And if I go through it, he doesn't have to go through it. My kid doesn't have to pass, and then it will be easy. But there are some struggles that parents just have to help navigate, which is learning to not get involved, but to put the right tracks. But it must be super hard to learn that for parents.
Yeah. So what we're seeing right now is just this entire shift of a lens in understanding children's behavior and understanding what we're seeing from the outside. So before we were in something we would call more of a standard or popular behavior approach, which would lead the parent or the educator desiring or wanting to stop, squish, or fix what we can see on the outside. So fix the behavior if ever it's something, for instance, if I see that my child is being rude or impolite, I want to stop it. Or if I see my child having a tantrum, I just want to squish it, because if he has no tantrum, well, then he should be fine. So this was the typical way of understanding behavior before. Today, now there's a new lens. There's, neuroscience, attachment-based science, developmental science are shedding light on what's happening inside the child. And exactly like you say, is that our role is not the one to fix emotion or squish or stop what we see in the outside. Our role is much more coming alongside the child and to allow the emotion to be expressed, and then obviously with some time being able to change it if need be. When I say change it, is change the form of expression. It's not changing the fact that he's feeling a feeling. Our children, like us, they have all of those big feels going on inside of them. And when they're young, and the younger they are, the bigger the feelings and the less equipped they are to deal with it. So they're very stirred up, and stirred up because of a lot of things, because of life, because of the, it's hectic. We're often putting them, in different settings and school settings, and sometimes they're not always ready. So there's a lot going on inside of them. And I think that the biggest shift right now is just trying to understand what's going on in our role within that relationship or that dynamic, and even our role as parents, as big people, when our children do have those tantrums, or do have those behaviors that sometimes are difficult or challenging for us to see.
And that's crazy, because a couple of weeks ago, we've had another psychoeducator in French, this time, Sarah Amel, psychoeducatrice. And the subjects of the podcast, they were not the same, but it's the same thing. They just said, we talked a lot about we're not good as adults to deal with emotions. Usually, like a baby cries, everyone's gonna go and do some giggles, and you're gonna try to entertain just to stop the crying.
But the crying has a purpose. That's what we've talked about, that we understand that biologically speaking has a purpose for the body to regulate itself. The same way as you would sweat if it's hot outside is for your body to try to cool down your system. Well, crying is the same thing. It's just it's your way of dealing with those feelings that you're feeling. But like you said, kids are not yet equipped because the brain hasn't developed enough for them to understand all of these. And if we as adults still have issues of understanding our own emotions and communicating what's going on and what we expect, what we need to resolve this, children, it's way worse. They do not know.
Absolutely. And even so many adults have difficulty feeling their feelings, which lead to so many other difficulties. So now we're just taking it back from the start and saying, listen, guys, our children will be stirred up in life. They will be stirred up when, when they're frustrated. They will be stirred up when they feel anxious because they don't want to let mama go, or they do want that cookie before supper. And we said, no, they're wrong. So we will, set boundaries. They will be stirred up. And then our role is to be, beside them and allow them to feel those feelings. Because it's only through feeling your feelings that eventually you can actually develop a relationship with them. And if we don't allow our children to feel, and if we're always trying to stop and squash and, shut them down, we are actually not helping our children to be able to develop a healthy relationship with their feelings as they grow.
That's so interesting, because one of the things you just said is to be along with them. And I think maybe one of the traps as being a parent is I want to be in front of my child so I can, if we're walking in a jungle, which is basically what childhood is, just a big old jungle of things we do not understand. The human thing is that you want to cut everything in front of them, make sure there's a way, there's a path so they can walk on in, they're okay. But I guess what you're saying is more, instead of being in front of them all the time or on all the steps, is to, okay, you put your boundaries, but you walk with them, so next to them, so you can go along with them, I guess.
There's different layers to what you're saying. So what's important to understand is in the relationship of the child and the parent has to still be in the lead.
Okay.
So the parent has to have that role of a leader, caring leader, in order for the child to really be able to depend on the parent when he needs in order to grow. So the only place that a child can truly rest is through this place of dependency. So I thought that's really important to just bring the nuance, because that's really important. But when I talk about coming alongside, it's especially when we talk about the big feelings. Okay. So I can illustrate it with an example. So my 5-year-old, we're at the ice cream shop. She has an ice cream in her ice cream cone. She starts to lick it and it falls on the ground. So typically there's like 3 types of reactions that we can see in parents. So one parent might say, hold on, I'm going to go get you another one, because my child started to, because the child started to cry, like, I just want ice cream, and the parents go, no, I'm going to go buy you another one.
Like find a solution.
That's a little bit like trying to fix it, trying to, and that's like, Sarah Amel said last time when, we were trying to distract or we're trying to fix the problem with the tears again. And then another parent may say something like, well, you already took 2 or 3 bites. So, some children don't eat none, like either, downplay it, or again, you see the discomfort within the parent towards the tears of the child. And the parent's trying maybe to rationalize the child and saying, well, you had 2 bites. Some children in Africa don't eat. And, so again, not holding space for the tears of the child who just lost their ice cream that they want. Like, it's not fun losing your ice cream. No. And the third response, which is one that demonstrates coming alongside the child, would be something like, oh, you really like that ice cream, eh? Like, and so you feel compassionate about the fact that the child had that ice cream and it fell down, and you don't necessarily need to move and fix it, and you don't necessarily need to convince the child that he or she should stop crying because the ice cream fell on the ground. You're kind of just allowing him to feel what he feels or what she feels towards the fact that she really wanted that ice cream and now it's not there.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I say come alongside. But to come alongside, you still have to have that type of leadership position, but not one of which that's trying to squish the emotion, but one of which who's able, I would say, firmly, with a lot of caring, hold space for what the child is feeling.
And in my work, I like to do the comparison between what it is to be a kid compared to adulthood. As an adult, let's say you just split with your husband or whatever, and then this one friend comes, stop crying, there's 100 fish in the pond, or like, I don't know the precise expression, but whatever, is the same thing, like, stop crying, just eat ice cream and it'll go away. That's not what you want to hear. You just want to hear, hey buddy, that sucks, I know. Like it's
you want the parent, you need that person to be there for you. And I guess that's one of the traps that we were saying, is that we're going to try to fix it, which is, it comes from a good place. No one here is saying that parents shouldn't fix. Like, you could give bites of your ice cream to your kid. Like, we know, but there's ways to let the emotions be felt by the children. But it must be so overwhelming for the parent to see your child go through this and not be able to help them, because that's what you want to do, right? You want to help them.
And it reminds me, there's 2 things I'd like to say about that. Number one is that even if it seems really like clear, the example with the ice cream, but reste que on the day to day, we won't always choose to allow this, the expression of all of this emotion. And there's also some times where it's almost it's very hard to when it's just before school or just before a dentist appointment, or, I hear all of my parents saying, yeah, but Krysta, I'd love to hold space, but my child is going to be crying for like 40 minutes and he needs to go to school.
And I need to go to work.
Yeah.
And we need to go to work. Like, absolutely. And that's where I say in the 3 different interventions, sometimes we may choose a different one.
Yeah.
I may choose to distract if I have to go to the dentist appointment, but know that there's a charge within, an emotional charge within my child that has not been freed because of the choice of the intervention that I took. So it may then come out in the night, it may come out in the evening. It may come out in different ways. So the only intervention in the 3 that I've named earlier that truly allows for liberation, for expression of emotion is the 3rd one. But that's not the only one that we're going to truly use as parents every day. Yeah. But more we understand emotion and more we're seeing or we're being confronted by our children's behavior that's like charged with emotion, more we can become conscious and aware of how can I use this a little bit more when I can. So maybe Friday night, if I'm overwhelmed and I have friends over, I won't use that. Maybe I will distract or rationalize or whatever. Yeah. But ultimately, that will not be enough to help my child. So that's one thing. And then the next thing was really when you talked about tears. Tears is actually one of the, it's probably the most important key when we talk about child development. So yes, we talk about expression of emotion and like liberation of emotion, but it's also what's responsible for growth and resilience.
Okay.
So it's through tears that our children can become resilient.
That's insane. Like the last time, same thing, we keep talking about that, but with Sarah, to me, that I have a very scientific oriented brain. Like I'm no scientist, don't get me wrong, but I love those things, and it's crazy. Like those tears, they heal and they make you learn, they make you grow. It's not just stop being a big crybaby. There's a purpose for it. So it always amazes me. The body is a cool thing.
Yeah, and we see it. Parents, if you're listening, we hope you are, but please go see the movies Inside Out 1 and 2. The second one has just come out. If you don't know what Inside Out is, it's a movie about emotions that is super well explained for children and for adults. You learn a lot about yourself whilst looking at those movies. But in the second one, we do see how shoving all these emotions down, it does come out at one point. And we see it a lot with children when they come back to school. So they've been shoving a lot of things down, not expressing their feelings at school because it's not as safe place as the home. Because at home, you will always have love from your parents. It's a comfortable place. So you can be 100% yourself without risking to lose anyone in your family, right? A lot of the times kids come back from school and a parent will say, oh, can you put away your lunchbox? And no, and then you see a big tantrum and explosion. Even though it's not through tears, the emotions are coming out, and you're like, what happened? Like, I only asked one thing, and then it comes back to a big debate and a big thing with your child. But there's so much more behind, as you were saying in the beginning, behind what we see. There's so many things that's going on. And how do you learn? How do you accompany your kid to express those feelings, I guess?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I think that the first thing is really the shift in what we see. Okay. Because there's like a first, I always see two parts to it. Because what we do, what we see will determine what we will do. So if I see a child that's rude, I'm going to want to stop it.
Yeah.
If I see a child who's dysregulated, who's having a hard time, I'm more inclined to come alongside and to be caring in order to help them. So we really have to adjust our, how we see and how we interpret, if you wish, our child's behavior. Because again, if it's violent, it has to stop. If he's feeling super frustrated and he doesn't have the means, I'm going to use myself in order to step in and accompany him and guide him and allow it to come out in safe ways. And again, it's not being boundaryless, no, not at all. it's stepping completely in. So it's taking charge of the situation with a lot of caring and understanding. Oh boy. And there's interesting stuff because there's like a few laws of emotion that to me, all parents, all educators, all like big people in the world should know. And one of which is, when there's a charge, there has to be a discharge.
Okay.
So like it stirs us up, so it has to be released sometimes. Yeah. So I'm actually much more worried or concerned when I have children who lost their tears. Who has no more fears, no more tears, no more, and then they become very aggressive, very anxious, very, rigidities come out. And so I'm much more worried about emotional health when they lose their tears and it just becomes more into aggression rather than our children who still feels and have access to their vulnerability. Yeah. And vulnerability may look like, again, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, I felt rejected, I feel isolated, alone. So all of those words that have, that vulnerable feeling attached to it. Yeah. I'm afraid, those feelings are important to have in terms of emotional health. Another important law when we talk about emotion is that it's not always expressed where it's been, let's say, created. So again, school, the same example that a lot of stuff is happening at school. Our child, or even at daycare, our child may not have his educator this morning. Then our child at school may be a teacher and he's been raising his hand all morning and the teacher didn't choose him. Maybe he's going to gym class and he thinks he's the best in hockey and they're playing deck hockey, but he's picked last. Like, there's all of these feelings of rejection and so our children are being stirred up, but they don't have necessarily the room within those walls to have the expression that's needed and required to find balance and equilibre again. So again, at home, then it's released, and the parents are like, I don't know what I done. I said hello, and then my child bursts. No, it's not your hello. You never caused this. Yeah. Emotions come out, so often where it's not created. It comes out different, at different spaces and different places.
Because all we see is the discharge. We don't always see the charge going in, to reuse your words. And like, it makes so much sense. I see it a lot because I work with teenagers, but the rudeness of teenagers is the biggest front of all time of how do I protect myself for not feelings, emotion, and then no one is going to bother me if I'm rude. And then people are going to think I'm mean, but I'm not mean. I'm just dealing with stuff inside that I don't know how to discharge properly. So I'm using maybe wrong ways to block myself from feeling those emotions because I'm shoving it down. And I think that's very interesting, the way you talk about charge and discharge.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Again, in my science-oriented brain, like all things should be balanced. All of a sudden, I feel like I speak like Thanos in the Avenger. But anyways, it's like if you buy, let's say, soft cookies, they will turn dry, and if you buy dry cookies, they will turn out soft. Everything balances itself, so it makes a lot of sense. I have a lot of those examples of cookies.
And we see it everywhere, and it's even in ourselves. Was it yesterday morning? There was feta cheese in my fridge, and I opened up the door, and the feta cheese fell, and I wanted to swear. I actually swore. I was like. I was like,
well deserved.
I'm like, feta cheese, like this could have happened 2 days ago or last week, and I would have had no reaction. Like things fell out of the fridge before, and there was no, didn't bother me. Obviously, I have a charge within me too. I just came back from a trip. There's transition stuff didn't work out. My child was sick, and so this is true for us, but it's also true for them.
But can you explain what is going on in the brain when you have this big discharge? Let's take the same example, the ice cream earlier, on a physical or biological way. What is going on in the brain? Is it like all fireworks inside when there's this big explosion of angriness, sadness, etc.? What is going on?
Yeah. So what I can say is that the higher the emotion, the less present and rational.
Yeah.
So you're really being overwhelmed with a feeling that's really, really intense. And so that would actually even speak to our sensitive children. So there's between 20 and 30% of our children who are sensitive, highly sensitive, hypersensitive, which means that not only do they get a lot more information from their environment than I would say the norm, but they also feel much more deeply. And so what happens is that the stronger your feeling is, the more overwhelmed you are, the less regulated you are, and the less access even to your logical brain you have. Yeah. So it's like, it's like you flip your lid. You're not, you're overwhelmed with the big emotion. And it's interesting because the role within that, so that's like, how do I say, that's how I would describe the tantrum, like, like the bacon crises, or again, like the very overwhelmed, I was going to say not schooler, but child that goes to school, student. Yeah. And our role as parents in there is really, I say it's almost like a storm, you're the captain in a boat. And so for all parents listening right now, when you're in your boat, you want to go to a destination, right? You're leaving point A, you're going to point B. B is your destination. I would say B is something like, getting to where our child, rearing our child, where our children grow to become adults. So we're a captain in a boat. And we're trying to bring them and raise them towards point B. Yeah. But when you're in your boat and there's a storm, the captain anchors the boat, and the only objective is not to completely flip over and sink. Your objective during a tantrum is to not make things worse. It's to anchor down, and it's to not sink. So that is not the time to start teaching lessons. About, like, you understand? It's not. This is not where we are going to have the highest teachable moments. This is not where we're telling our child. All of what we're trying to do is this float. And when the storm is past, when emotions are lower, then we could keep on sailing to our destination. Then we can, have those discussions, teachable moments, talk about strategies, depending on the age of the child. But within that moment, like, our job is to just not flip over, guys.
That's so interesting, because I would have thought, like, I know the reflex would be, okay, there's a storm, I'm going to sail through. I'm just going to keep going, and it's going to pass, and everything's going to be okay if I just keep on going. But I love what you're saying about anchoring down, because the storm has to happen. It has happened and is going on. And the only thing I can do right now is to let the volcano explode, let it flow, and then deal with it, or like understand, go back on it. I think it's one of the steps that parents forget.
We want to repair. We want to help our child aim in the right direction. We're giving him his value system. We're giving him, we're helping him through this. So it's not just like, I'm just going to, watch with a little bit of popcorn, my child flip it over. That's not it. Really, we're there. And again, when I say we're a captain of a boat, we're responsible too. Yeah. If it's really, really hectic, we might have to, intervene and like take some stuff away. Maybe we need to come closer. Maybe we need to say, I see you in this. But depending on the situation, we have to be active within this role. We are the leader, but what I'm saying is, when I talk about the destination, is more so, this is not the time to push growth on a child. This is not time for him to learn lessons, or that he's good. This is not that time. This is not where we get all of the essential learnings that are not being done at that point. All we're trying to do is help him pass through, his big emotions, but not keep navigating in our big ideas, because sometimes that's what I'll get from the parents, and I totally understand it. I feel that way, even if I have all of this knowledge, I still feel that way sometimes. I'm like, hey, hey, how come she's not using her words? How come she's not, we ask ourselves, like, hey, does he, I don't know, he's 9 years old, he should have better ways to come, but it's not during that time that that can actually happen. So it's just, it's to remember that, like, what does he need right there, right now, often is a presence, calm presence. The the younger our children are, the more they actually need our brain to regulate out. So we're actually sharing them, our brain and our state of our nervous system, in order for them to regulate themselves. So that's co-regulation. They're not able to.
And the calmer you are, like, humans are going to adapt and always copy, especially children, what's around them. So the calmer you are during that storm, the more anchored down you are, the more the kid is going to copy and regulate with what you're doing. We see it a lot with breathing exercises. Like I remember when I was a kid, what my mom would just do is that she would sit next to me and breathe. Not, okay, Michelle, you should breathe. It's like she will breathe on her own. And then my brain is just going to copy what's going on. And then I'm going to dial down from what's happening to me and just see and breathe. And then, oh, okay, so now that you're calmer, like that was big feelings. Like you had to go through this. This is such a big event. And then even if for an adult, it's super tiny. Like I know parents are so sick of like little things of kids. Oh, but my best friend, she doesn't want to be friends with me. And like, oh, my kid is so mature, but then she comes home and had all of the things with her friends and stuff. And you're like, this is such baby things, but that's where they are in their development. And like you said, we were talking about the brain. The last part of the brain to develop is the frontal. And that's where we have our logical reasoning. And that's where we're thinking of things and being like, oh, maybe like this step back from situation. That's where it is. And this is the last part to really like get fixed and concrete, like really have all their neurons and connection put in.
And it's late.
And
it
it's
late.
Like until 25.
If we're sensitive, even if we like, I usually have access to mine, but you put me in a really heated discussion. You know, I don't have fully access all the time, and that's the thing about emotion. It's that the stronger you feel it, even if you have the capacity, usually I'm pretty tempered. I'm a civilized, I go into society and but if I'm in a heated discussion, a passionate discussion with my husband, sometimes, I'm not as tempered as I want it to be, and
especially if you drop cheese earlier.
Yes.
If I dropped that cheese, it didn't come out, like, boy, that discussion is going to be hard. Also and another thing that's important to understand is that even the prefrontal cortex, like the more we use it during the day, it's almost like a muscle. We don't have access to it all the time in the nights, in the evenings. And that's why sometimes I have parents who's like, you know what, I'm super caring, I'm super in charge. I wake up, in the morning saying, I am not going to yell today. And then the morning starts off not bad, and they're like, but time's 7 o'clock. I want to be this gentle parenting mama. And I'm just like, get the bed, and they're like, the patience, I'm not as tempered. I'm not as patient. and a part of that is really normal, although I don't necessarily promote those types of stuff. I think it's important to validate and shed light on the fact that there's stuff in that's normal, And,
for sure, because I think there's one of the things we say a lot is that if as a parent, you're not expecting your child to be perfect, your child is not expecting your parent to be perfect either. There are ways to learn from your parental mistakes, or just not mistake, but setbacks, or just not even setbacks. It's just like you're human as a parent. And that's what you're giving as an example and learning from. Sometimes you're going to scream, and that's okay. Like maybe today was a big day for you as an adult and as a human, and you've had your fair share. And at this particular moment, the thing your kid made or what happened you just screamed and you didn't know how to handle the situation better at that time. And that's okay. You just have to go back on it with your children and acknowledge, you know what? I'm very sorry for screaming at you earlier. I know there are other ways we can talk about it. I would like to talk about it over with you and go over it and acknowledge you know what? I think I could have handled this better. This is the humility that is going to help you bond with your kid and show your kid like, hey, I can also make mistakes, but I can go back on these mistakes and learn from them, and we can together go further.
Absolutely. What I can say is absolutely that we are not perfect. It's impossible to be perfect. Even if we have all of these connaissances, all of these understandings, to me, it serves as an aim. So this is what we would like to offer. Because we're human, we will not always be in our aim. That being said, repair is like the biggest ally that a parent should have. So repair with the child and repair with ourselves. So repair, again, it's not denial, and it's not saying, well, I'm just doing my best. It's actually saying, I hurt my child, or I scared my child today. This is not how I want it to happen.
Yeah.
And this is, I did have a big day. This was a hard moment, and I'm a good mom. And you keep on. So it's acknowledging the child's feelings within my intervention. That was probably not the best one. I scared him, and I can even acknowledge that with my child. This is not how I like to do things. I saw that you're scared. I will be better next time, or I'll try my best and next time. And then there's also with ourselves, which is, I feel my guilt. So the idea is not to push down the guilt to not feel it. It's to actually make room for the guilt. The guilt is just saying, hey, Krysta, or hey, parent, this is not the way you're supposed to be, And then it's to say, okay, so what's going on lately? Have I been working a little bit too much? Have I never moved enough during my day? Did I skip my runs? What am I eating? It's just to reflect on what's going on within me in order to try and come back into my aim. And it's really the key part of that is not actually all of the mental gymnastics, but it's actually all the feels related to the thoughts. So making room and space for the guilt, making room also for the feelings within my child. But repair, absolutely, because we're all stepping into parenthood with our baggage, with our wounds, where I'm at, where someone else is at. Even if there's knowledge around, maybe I'm very, I could be very reactive. This person could be less reactive. There's so much going on. So again, the knowledge helps us to aim in the right direction. But a lot of how, whether I'm triggered or reactive or, where I'm at is actually determined a little bit more about my healing process and the wounds that I've experienced in my life. So we're all coming into this with our baggage, and I think it's important to be kind with ourselves as well, when we talk about the emotions of our child, but it's just important as it is with our own self.
And it reminds me, I'm learning to be a parent at the same time as my kid is learning to be a kid. So it made a lot of sense for us, this sentence, and it summarized well what you just said. It's just, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. We just catapulted in this world of parenthood, and like you said, I've been a kid. I know what it is, or what I felt like with this precise set of parent. Maybe it was good parenting, maybe it was not. So I need to learn from it and what were the mistakes, quote, and what can I do better.
Absolutely. And the more we're attuned to what's going on within our child and within ourselves, like the emotional world, the more it's going to lead us, I would say, intuitively in like a healing journey. Like we're going to try and make sense of what's going on. We're going to try to become a bit better. And exactly, I always say, we grow as we go. We're still in it. So
yeah, we were talking about, okay, when there's a storm, we're anchoring down. How do you come back to it with your child? Like, let's say there's a big tantrum. What can you do? Like, what are maybe the do's and don'ts? What are the things that are going to help me as a parent go through this?
So for sure, if we start with the don'ts, like you said, it's not to add on any frustration. So when we understand a tantrum, it's really important to understand that it's rooted in frustration. Frustration, what it is, like in a nutshell, is feeling stirred up about something that isn't working for you.
Okay. Losing control. Maybe on something.
It's one of like the primary emotions. So it's just something that is not working the way you like it to work or the way you thought it would work out. So it's not working for you. So we can imagine that there's a lot of stuff not working for our children because there's a lot of stuff that isn't working for us as adults, Yeah. And so it's really important to understand that it's rooted in that. So one of the aims is not to increase the frustration while you're in a tantrum. So increasing a frustration could be something like anything that would be, for instance, the menace. What's menace? Threats.
Yeah.
So if you don't stop right now, you're not going to have any. So what it can do temporarily, it could squeeze them. It could flood them with alarm.
Yeah.
So maybe at the moment they'll stop, but then in 2 minutes later, it's going to come out again. And we're like, it just stopped. Why is it coming out again? It's because the intervention we use actually increases frustration or alarm. And so we flood the system, it sticks, but then it'll come back out not so. So we want to avoid that type of intervention. We also want to avoid things like timeouts, because the timeout what it is, if we want to look at it, if we want to zoom in on it, is actually you are not allowed to be in my presence with this behavior, So I'm actually rejecting you. So it's a what we call the separation-based intervention. So what we know today, science is really clear on one thing, is that the fundamental need of children is connection. They need to feel connected. It's actually, again, like we said, we're sharing our brain with them in order for them to feel safe, in order for them to become regulated again. Yeah. So the thing with separation-based interventions, which is I'm going to use disconnection for you to obey. I'm going to use disconnection for you to have the behavior that I want you to have. So again, those types of behavior can work on the moment, on the spot, because we're flooding their systems with more emotion, but then it comes out afterwards. An example again of that would be if we go to daycare and our child is not coming towards us. We're like, well, mommy is going, bye-bye. So right away we see the eyes of our child be alarmed and they run after us like an elastic. It is magic. And they're like, but it works. But then we're in the car and then our child is hitting or there's behavior coming out. And we're like, how is it coming out? Why is this coming out? We just pushed on the emotional buttons of our child. So we intuitively know those things. As parents, we know it works because we use them regularly in our intervention to have the behavior that we want. But what we don't understand is that it causes more tantrums or more behavior afterwards. So we want to avoid anything that actually causes disconnection with our child.
Okay, so how do you how do you do the connection? Because we know that sometimes the kids do need to regulate and do need that time to be alone with what's happening so they can, regulate, not on their own, but knowing that I'm there. So is it, okay, if you want to go to your room to deal with those feelings, you can. I'm here. I'll come back to you. How do you, is that it?
So it's exactly that. The difference is I wouldn't ask them a question. We're the leader. We're the captain. Okay. We're the pilot. We are like, ooh, this is really overwhelming for you. Let's go into this space.
Okay.
Ooh, I see this is, you're with a group of friends and this is not working. There's so much going on. Yeah. You come with me and we are going to sit down in this space and we're going to read a book. Yeah. So I'm actually taking charge. I'm taking lead. I see that he's overwhelmed and this is not working. The difference is I'm using my eyes to bring him into a safer place to help him regulate. Very different from a space of, well, this is not working. I can't tolerate your behavior. You go in your room.
Yeah. Okay, I see the difference.
So it can look the same from the outside, which what I mean is that the physical fact that he's being, taking away from a group could look the same on the outside, but what's happening and how we do it in terms of preserving relationship and connection is what's the most important. So yes, we have to deal with behavior. We have to deal with behavior. The thing is that we want to deal with behavior while considering the relationship. Okay. We have to understand that if it's only with disconnection, it's going to contribute to difficult behavior. So does that make sense? It's a bit theoretical.
Yeah, it does. And so keeping that connection will help you, as you say, if we come back to the anchoring, it will help you go through and be able to de-anchor yourself at the proper time, I guess.
So what happens is that our child actually needs us to feel safe. They need us. Yeah. We are creatures of attachment. Our child, if we take a baby who's crying, like the minute you put him on, you take him, they'll usually settle down easily. Yeah. Our child falls down because they hurt their knee. They're going to run to us because we're their safe place. So what we don't want to do is say, go in your room, and when you figure it out, you come back to me.
Because we're no longer
what we want to say is, okay, I see this is overwhelming. Let's go to this place. And if the child is like, I don't want you there, fine. I'm going to take a step away. I am still here. And maybe we'll come back up with a granola bar or his favorite banana muffin because we know that this is a way in. And he's not in charge of coming back to see me. I'm in charge of the relationship.
Yeah. It makes so much sense. And like you said, on the outside, the difference is nothing. Like someone who would watch you, they won't see the difference, but deep down in the relationship with your kid, it makes a whole lot of difference. It's super. It makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure the parents who are listening right now are full of ideas and are feeling refreshing by this.
even coming back with food, I've done it so many times with children. I've worked with kids in camps and stuff. And when they're away from their parents, we see a lot of tantrums. We see a lot of things going on, and they would scream or cry in front of me or in my office or anything. I would just sit there and be there with them. We don't know each other. So I can't be just like, okay, you should stop crying. It's like, okay, you're crying. This is what's happening. I'm going through the storm with you. I'm going to anchor down. I'm here. And then when you see the storm is settling, you're like, hey, would you like something to eat? Would you like to come with me get a bowl of cereal? And they're like, yeah. And then you pour them the cereal, put some milk or milk first or not. You have those little funny things. And then when all their needs are answered and they come back to a safe place, you can have that conversation. I saw that something might have been bothering you before. Like, can you explain to me what happened? And you pass the storm in this way.
Absolutely. The children need to feel taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one way to do it is through food.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like, if I think of Christmas at my grandma's house and there's this big old, feast there. Oh, now I feel at rest. I'm not working for food. The food is right there.
Yeah.
I feel taken care of through food. It's amazing. There's so much science right now and so much interesting links between food, feeling taken care of. So absolutely, I was like, when I was in the different school systems, in my office there was like soap, granola bars, and and this was the way in. And the thing is that some children are going to be able to talk and open up, and some people don't. Some children don't even know what's going on inside of them, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So we all really need to see as adults is, something's not working.
Yeah.
We don't even have to always know why.
Mm-hmm.
Something's not working for them.
It's so interesting. I think we could talk about this for like hours and hours.
We need to put ourselves on.
Yeah,
we need to apply some breaks because we could go. And I think every people who works with kid and with intervention, this is our candy right now. Like it's to this exchange, all this sharing is. Yeah, like we could go until noon, but as we talk about food, I'm already hungry. So before we let you go, we would like to know what are your stuff? Would you like to promote something? You talk about cœur en tête.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's cœur en tête. So if you want to maybe explore my website, I have cœurentetête.ca. It's really funny because it's all in French. But I do offer, stuff in English as well. But being right now, most of, let's say, like the recordings, I offer trainings, I offer conferences, I offer also some parent consulting, parent educating stuff. Perfect. So I am English, so I would absolutely love and enjoy to share in English. But there's also a French section, so if ever parents are interested in that, and if not, I can maybe just mention that a lot of my approach is from the Neufeld Institute. So I've been trained at that, at the Neufeld Institute, to have this, let's say, this developmental relational lens. And there's a lot of material there too that's available for parents and English speaking educators or parents or whatnot. So to me, it's important. I want parents to have interesting and up-to-date resources. And so there is mine, but there's a lot of professionals out there that
we're going to link it, and we're also going to link it because it is good to have the resources to keep being updated with stuff. And because it's changing a lot, we're learning so much from things every day. And it's not like pseudoscience. It's really like thought through and explained properly to parents. And that's good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So once again, thank you very much. I really feel it's going to be super helpful for our community that we trying to help. And thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Bagot Talk.
Follow us on our Facebook page, Plaquette à Bagot Talk Podcast.
See you soon.